Host Ken here, talking with famous people. Gonna take this time to just sort of decompress and just talk about different thoughts. I'm thinking recently about extroverted sensing as my inferior function. While it is in the fourth position in MBTI terms, I don't really associate the word inferior with it. Maybe in comparison to someone who is a stronger sensor, especially like an ESTP or an ESFP. I feel like it's a particularly strong driving force in my life. I have times like this where things are kind of quiet, just sitting, by myself thinking about things. And there are other times when I'm much more active. But also thinking about ideas of quality versus quantity in terms of time spent. In relation to extrovert sensing, I think of it as I enjoy having time by myself, and I enjoy being around people and interacting with people, especially in groups. I like group dynamics. Group dynamics are, I like group dynamics. So I like being alone, and I like socializing. I like problem solving by myself. I like problem solving with other people. My mind, quality versus quantity is like, I may spend a lot of time by myself, but I may not do, for example, what I'm doing now, which is as I'm recording this, instead of being hard-pressed to speak very fluently and quickly, I'm allowing myself time to stop, because I'm afforded the opportunity of being able to edit out long pauses, which is something I don't necessarily get in conversation. So while I have been spending quite a bit of the day by myself, the time I'm taking right now is better, I think, than the earlier parts of the day. Because during those parts of the day, even though I was by myself, I was on the computer, essentially acting, and by that I mean actions, doing things. So in that way, even though I've been by myself, which you would think of as a normal, practice for an introvert and an INFJ at that. But to me, I'm still doing things. And it's funny to me how infrequently I take advantage of quiet time. And how even when I'm by myself, I'm not being with myself. Because even though I was by myself earlier today, it was still me doing things. I was troubleshooting technical problems, watched a TV show for a while, things like that, where I consider it as me doing things, but it's also not what I would consider quality action. Quality action would, I think, involve interacting with people and doing things with them, doing group activities, having a good laugh, just kind of having fun, but with the idea in mind of connecting further with people. Because even if, to my mind, the reason why I want to do that is, even if I don't agree with someone immediately, or even if I don't agree with them on everything, no matter how much we explain things to each other, there's a difference between whether or not you agree with someone on everything and the feeling that I get on an individual basis with people. There are people who I've enjoyed talking with, even though we didn't have that many things in common, or we didn't agree on everything, because they were pleasant to be around, and because they were willing to foster sort of a growth of interaction and fellowship. And there's been people that I agree with that I find that we're on a similar page, sort of theoretically on something, but I get worn out talking to them because it's not really an enjoyable experience. Even though we might come to a similar conclusion on something, it doesn't feel like growth. Or if it does feel like growth, it feels very strained. So that's as far as action goes. But as far as not action, I actually find that I really struggle with things like meditation or whatnot. Because it turns into like this one-upping thing with myself, at least it has in the past when I have tried it. And this ended up happening too with exercise and some other things where I'd set a new bar for myself. And if I couldn't at least meet that sort of new record the next time I did the action, then it felt like I was moving backwards. I always want progress, I always want forward movement, which that applies to action. When I'm talking about action, I'm talking about extroverted sensing primarily, but then also extroverted feeling dynamics. That's what I'm relating to as action. But it also applies to the more introverted stuff, NI, TI, and there's other, the other functions involved. If we're talking about socionics, Model A, which I've really enjoyed learning about, I think it helps me to put things in a perspective a bit more. But as far as the alone time goes, I was talking about with the meditating, to just sit and try to quiet my mind. Maybe I don't understand it correctly, but it seems kind of forced. To me, if your mind's quiet, you can't put emphasis on it, because then it'll stop being quiet. You can't put a magnifying glass on it, or you can't put it under a microscope. Mentally, can't shift your observation to it, because then it stops being quiet. At least, to my mind, there's an effect produced even from observing nothing. So yeah, I guess a thought that's been on my mind then is, how do I maximize my time, maybe? If I start to think about it in that way, then it seems less appealing. Because it's not like a neat and tidy efficiency I'm looking for. It's not like, okay, from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. I'm going to have fun, and then from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. I'm going to attain greater enlightenment. I don't know if, mindfulness, or whatever that means, I don't know if that would help. So for myself, there's maybe it's a fear that gets created when I think that I'm not going to get enough quality out of my time. It's sort of odd. I don't always care. But if I have an idea in mind about how I think things should turn out, then I get frustrated. I find myself getting worried if I do plan on having quality time and it becomes apparent to me that things are going to be a bit more stretched out, that it's not going to be as neat and tidy, that the quality that I was looking to get out of it isn't going to happen, and it's going to start shifting more into lots, quantity. Quantity? Yeah, that's... I forgot how to say the word there for a second. Becomes more like quantity time, where you're just spending a long stretch in a state of just meh. And earlier I related the quality action time that I was talking about pertaining more to social interaction. Doesn't always have to. But if I'm getting the most bang for my buck, then I'd like to develop as many functions as I can. I guess the way I like to think about it is, rather than taking a step-by-step approach, I talked about not wanting to say, okay, from 4 to 5 p.m. I'm gonna grow more enlightened, or something like that. But I do like the idea of blocking off time where there's an activity or something that has focus. I don't mind that, but I think I also need it, and I need to be open to whatever happens. Because the more I try to control the outcome, the more frustrating it gets for myself. And I think last night or the other night I was talking about this in one of those Path of Least Resistance TE videos that Eric put up. I was talking about being fine with a sort of step-by-step plan, or like a general framework, but not liking the idea of someone being forceful, saying, okay, this is what absolutely has to happen, being very rigid about things. I guess it's something that I don't like to see in others, and it's something I don't like to see in myself, but it is something that I've done in the past where I say to myself, okay, I want to get this specifically out of the time that I spend. And I feel much more healthy mentally when I'm cultivating an environment for things to happen, not necessarily trying to hammer out the details of what's going to happen. Yeah. I've been thinking about emotions as of recently. I like to have happy emotions around other people. I don't like to feel vulnerable. And I think there are plenty of people who share that sentiment. Strange, it's kind of disconnected. I can go to a sort of vulnerable place sort of on my own, but yet I don't really see the point of doing it on my own. It's something I want to do with others, but I just don't trust anyone enough for that. And I'd like to be able to go there for others, like when someone's crying or whatnot, or they feel sad. Like, when Eric uploaded his video when he was burying his dog, I think I just mentioned that, I had lost my Labrador the previous summer and that, I'm sorry. And I had sat there for a bit thinking, okay, how can I say something to cheer him up? Or how can I foster improved mutual feelings between us? How can I use this situation as an opportunity to improve relations between myself and someone else? But to my mind, an obvious way to go about that would be through authenticity. To authentically go to that vulnerable place with him. But I find that both in that situation and in many other situations, I just don't go to that place with others. I don't think it's because I can't. I do think it's been sort of conditioned out of me, and I don't mean that, in a nefarious sense or anything. I'm not saying there was like some big plan behind my conditioning, like it was done by others. I mean, others were involved, but I think it was just part of my particular life experiences. Not liking to feel vulnerable. So yeah, I want to be able to go to that place with others, but when I try to be authentic, now the words here are when I try, when I try to be authentic, that to me is inauthentic because I'm trying. It's not an action, it's a state of being. You're either vulnerable or you're not. You can make decisions that will lead to you maybe being more open, just being in a place of vulnerability. But it's not like, okay, let me flip the vulnerable switch, then I'm vulnerable now. At least that's not how it works for me. I don't know why I started talking about this. I guess it's just been on my mind. This is quality time with myself. Now, I'm technically acting right now. When I say acting, I mean action. I'm doing that right now, so it's not like this is a non-active, alone time or personal time. I am doing things. I'm recording a video. I'm talking. I am extroverting in a way. It's just not around other people, but it's still quality. starting to like YouTube. Just the idea that I can talk at the speed that I want to talk. Edit it a bit, cut out some of the spaces so that it's a bit more viewer friendly, and then to put it up so that it can be seen for long periods of time. I don't really have to repeat myself. That's nice. Takes pressure off. I think this is part of what I've been missing over the years is I've sort of learned that I need to speak fast and be energetic enough and have the right things to say, or people aren't going to want to listen. That's not me saying, woe is me. I think it's, for the most part, how human beings interact with each other, at least maybe in sort of modern, semi-globalized culture. I don't know. I'm not going to get too much into the nitty-gritty. I used to get talked over a lot when I was younger. I think that was part of it too. I'd be speaking and people would... It's not like they were interrupting me to add to my conversation. I would get interrupted by people starting entirely new conversations with people who I was in the middle of talking to, or I was in the process of talking to. That just struck me as odd. Like, I didn't understand. Like, I've heard from people that I have a relaxing voice or things like that, and, granted, I'm not extroverting a whole lot right now. At least I don't think. I don't know. But I just didn't understand why other people seem to be able to just command people's attention, and why I always felt like I needed to sort of lobby for other people's attention. Because if I wasn't, being flashy or making quick jokes or things like that, then I wasn't going to get my opportunity to express what I wanted to say. I ain't even mad about it, really. I don't like it when it happens, don't get me wrong. But that's happened less and less frequently as I've gotten older. Or maybe it's just that I've learned how to respond to that when it happens. Here's a prime example of how I'm responding to it. I'm using this format to convey my thoughts as I want to. So yeah, I could talk more, but I think that's it for me for right now. Thank you for watching.